Assalamu alaikum students. I am Professor Dr. Zora Nazir Kiani from Lahore, California University, Lahore, and I am again in front of you for another lecture of your MS course Semiconductor Electronic Devices. And today we will discuss about the power devices, which are also known as the PNPN diode. One of the most common application of optoelectronic devices is switching, which requires the device to change from off or blocking state to an on or conducting state. In previous lecture, we have studied that use of transistor in this application, in which base current derives the device from cutoff to saturation. Similarly, diodes and other devices can be used to serve a certain type of switches. There are a number of important switching applications that require device remain in the blocking state under forward bias until switched to the conducting state by an external signal. Several devices which fulfill this requirement have been developed, and we will discuss a family of switches in this chapter. The semiconductor control rectifier SCR and their related devices. These devices are special because they have high impedance in off condition under a forward bias until a switching signal is applied. After switching, they exhibit low impedance or on condition. The signal required for switching can be varied externally. Therefore, these devices can be used to block or pass currents at predetermined level. In this chapter, we shall discuss the physical operation of the SCR and combination of FET and SCR called the insulated gate bipolar transistor. In this figure, a general diagram of PNPN diode has been shown, which is consisted of two PNPN diodes, and there are three junctions. One junction is called the J1, second junction is called the J2, third is called the J3. And one terminal, it has got three terminal. One is called anode, second is called cathode, third is called the gate. This is just the general description of PNPN diode. We will discuss its construction and working in detail in the coming slides. Actually, the term Shockley diode, a PNPN diode, is named from the inventor William Shockley. It is a four-layer semiconductor device, and it was the first semiconductor device. It is similar to thyristor with detached gate. Now, as I have mentioned in the introduction, silicon control rectifier or semiconductor control rectifier is a four-layer solid-state device that controls current flow. The name silicon control rectifier is a trade name for this type of thyristor commercialized at General Electric in 1957. Silicon control rectifier is most popular of this family due to its fast switching action, small size and high voltage and current rating. It is commonly used in power electronic application. SCR has three terminals and control is provided by the gate. SCR is turned on by applying positive gate signal when anode is positive with respect to cathode, and SCR is turned off by interrupting anode current. The silicon control rectifier or the semiconductor control rectifier is a two-state device used for efficient power control. SCR is the permanent member of thyristor family and it is used in high power electronics. Its constructional features, physical operation and characteristics are explained in the coming sections. SCR is a 4-layer PNPN device which has 3 terminals as I mentioned earlier, anode, cathode and gate. In off state, it has a very high resistance and in on state there is a small resistance. Its applications are numerous such as in motor controls, time delay circuits, heater controls, phase control, etc. Now here in these figures, the basic construction is shown in first figure and then here is the symbolic representation of the PNPN diode and this is the equivalent circuit of PNPN diode where two diodes are seen to be working here where there is anode at the top, cathode as the bottom and here G is the gate through which the SCR function are controlled. Now again here this is the basic structure of your PNPN diode where anode here is at the top, cathode at the bottom and here we have got junction J1, J2 and J3. And again there is a representation of equivalent circuit and the symbol of SCR. Now this figure actually shows the operation of the PNPN diode. So to understand this figure we have to just study its background. That is, the SCR is a 4-layer PNPN diode structure that effectively blocks current through two terminals until it is turned on by small signal at the third terminal. There are many varieties of basic PNPN structure and we shall not attempt to cover all of them. However, we will just discuss the basic operation and physical mechanism involved in these devices. We shall begin our discussion by investigating the current flow in a two-terminal PNPN device and then extend the discussion to include triggering by third terminal. In this discussion, we will see that PNPN structure can be considered for many purposes as combination of PNP, here PNP are NPN transistors and its analysis can be understood by keeping in mind the function of BJT studied in chapter number 7. Before moving to the control of an SCR using third terminal, it is important to understand the basic transistor action at work in a PNPN structure. Therefore, in this section, we analyze the 4-layer structure with only two terminals. Here you can see that only anode and cathode terminal are given. So, initially, just understand that here current is entering from the anode and going toward the cathode and we have applied the voltage between anode and cathode and of course anode is at positive potential and anode is at negative potential. Again we have got three junction as I have previously told you at the starting slide, that is junction J1, J2 and J3. Now we will just consider its basic structure and then basic operation. First we will consider the 4-layer diode structure with anode terminal A at the outside P region with a cathode terminal K at the outside of N region. We shall refer to junction near to the anode as J1, near to the cathode as J3, and in between J1 and J2 is the junction near to the anode is J1, near to cathode is J3, and in between J1 and J3 is J2. When anode is biased positively with respect to cathode, the device is forward biased. However, as the IV characteristics of figure 11.1b indicates that the forward bias condition of diode can be considered two separate states. The high impedance or forward blocking state. This is the high impedance or forward blocking state, and the low impedance are the forward conducting state. So these are the two states. In the device illustrated here, the forward IV characteristic switches from the blocking state. Here you can see it is switched from blocking state to forward conducting state at a certain peak voltage applied between anode and cathode, which is called the VP. That is, initially the current was flowing but it was very small, that was forward blocking state. Then after attaining a certain voltage, it will go to the conducting state and the current will rise instantaneously. Now, in order to understand what is going here, we must know that initial positive voltage V places J1 and J3 under forward bias, because J1 is connected to the anode, to the positive terminal of battery, and J3 is connected to the cathode, to the negative terminal of battery, and center junction J2 under reverse bias. And due to this reverse bias of junction J2 and forward bias of junction J1 and J3, there is small current flowing, so that's why we call it as forward blocking state. As V is increased, most of the forward voltage in the blocking state must appear across the reversed bias junction J2. After switching to conducting state, the voltage from A to K is very small, less than 1 volt. And we conclude that in this condition, all three junctions must be forward biased. The mechanism by which J2 switches from reverse bias to the forward bias is the subject of much of discussion to follow. So we have to do a discussion to understand that how this reverse bias J2 junction has become to the forward bias. In the reverse, so we will discuss this in detail. But before discussing it into detail, you can just see that on the other side of your curve, there is a current which is called the reverse blocking state. In this reverse blocking state, when your applied voltage is negative, J1 and J3 are reverse bias and J2 is forward bias, opposite to initial stage when the voltage was positive. Since the supply of electrons or hole to J2 is restricted by the reverse bias junction on each side, the device current is limited to a small saturation current arising from thermal generation of electron-hole pairs near the junction J1 and J3. The current remains small in the reverse blocking condition until avalanche breakdown occurs at low reverse current. You know that this avalanche breakdown can increase this reverse current so much that your device can be damaged. In properly designed device with guards against surface breakdown, the reverse breakdown voltage can be several thousand volts. So to keep device safe, it is always tried that this reverse blocking current should not increase so much that it can harm your device. Now we will see the mechanism by which this device, often called Shockley diode due to name who invented it, switches from the forward blocking state to the forward conducting state. That is, in this discussion, we have seen that there are three states, that is forward blocking state, and after reaching a certain positive voltage, our device enters the forward conducting state. And when we apply negative voltage to anode and cathode, then there is a reverse blocking current. Now we will discuss that how our device, when we are applying the positive voltage, move from the forward blocking state to the forward conducting state. Now in this figure, here it is clearly shown that this is your forward blocking state and this is your forward breakdown voltage. And then when your device enters the forward conducting state until you reach here, where you can see that this is called the forward conduction region, and this current is called the forward leakage current. And again on this side we have got reverse leakage current, and this is your reverse leakage region, and this is your reverse breakdown voltage. As you have seen that here there is rise in the instantaneously rise in the current. Now in this figure, forward biasing is shown, that is, when voltage is applied to the Shockley diode in such a way that anode is made positive with respect to cathode, and junction J1 and J3 forward bias and junction J2 is reverse bias, until the voltage across the diode is less than the breakover voltage. The minimum voltage required to make the junction J2 forward bias as well. Our Shockley diode act as open switch which exhibits very high resistance and allow no currents to flow through it. Once the breakover voltage is reached, as the forward voltage is increased, it exhibits a very low resistance due to the breakdown of junction J2. Therefore, it acts like a short circuit and allows the current to flow until the current reaches to the holding current level of the diode. In this way, this is the condition when it acts like a short circuit and current reaches to its highest level. On state current flows only when the voltage is more than the breakover voltage VBO. So this shows us the forward current. Here on this side we have the current and this side we have got the voltage. Now next is the reverse biasing. When anode is made negative with respect to the cathode, the junction J2 and J3 reverse bias and junction J2 is forward bias. If the reverse voltage is increased beyond the breakdown voltage of Shockley diode, J1 and J3 are reverse bias. then the reverse current flow through the diode. Now here reverse current is going to flow. This reverse current produces the heat further, and this could ruin the entire diode. If this reverse current is increased sufficiently like this, it can damage a diode. Therefore, Shockley diode should never be operated reverse bias condition with a voltage equal to the reverse breakdown voltage. So this is the situation that when the reverse biasing applied, that is anode is connected to negative terminal of battery and cathode to the positive terminal of battery. Now we have to understand this PNP diode as the two transistor in a two transistor condition, because we know that it is PNP diode. Here you can see, but when we combine PN and PNP and NPN, so it becomes the two transistors PNP and NPN. And similarly here the circuit diagram is shown that when we have considered two transistors in form of PNP and NPN transistors. Now in the previous figure which we have now seen, that is the four-layer configuration suggests that PNP diode can be considered as two coupled transistors. J1 and J2 form the emitter and collector junction respectively of the PNP transistor. Similarly, junction J2 and J3 form the collector and emitter junction of NPN transistor. In this case, the collector region of the PNP is common to the base of the PNP, and the base of the NPN serve as the collector region of PNP. The center junction J2 serve as collector junction for both transistors. Here we have got one PNP transistor like this. This is PNP. And here we have got NPN transistor because we have got PNP diode, and we have divided it into two types of transistors like this. Here it is N, this is P, this is N, and from here from the base of this transistor we have connected here. Similarly, base of this transistor NPN is connected here, and we can say that here we have got anode, and here we have got cathode, and here I, B, 1 is equal to collector current of the second transistor, like this, and here I collector 1 is the base current of the second transistor, like this. This current is on this way, and this current is on this way, and current is entering the anode and going out from the cathode. And here emitter of this transistor, and of course in center will be the base. And here we have got collector, and here is the base, and here is the emitter, and our first transistor, and here are our two transistors. So basically we have taken this PNP diode as the two transistors. The collector current IC1 of PNP transistor drives the base of the NPN, and the base current IBV1 of PNP is dictated by the collector current of the NPN transistor. If we associate an emitter to collector current transfer ratio alpha with each transistor, we can analyze this for solving for current I. So if we just go back our 7th chapter and we see, if you girls please turn over your books and see the equation number 7.37b, or I can just tell you that after writing this equation, that what this tells us. That is how you can see here at the top I have written these equations, where collector current is related to the alpha I. What is the alpha here? Alpha is the current transfer ratio. So this is the and current I which is flowing from the anode and going toward the cathode. And then come our IC01, this which is the collector current of our transistor number 1, which is equal to the base current of the transistor number 2. Similarly, for the collector current of transistor 2, we can write this equation as alpha 2I plus I C02 is equal to IB1, as we have said here that IB1 is equal to IC2. Same we have written here, just we have extended it, where we say that this current, this is the saturation current of our collector 1, and this is the saturation current for our collector 2. So when we take both the sum of the current through collector number 1 and collector number 2, it will give us the total current. Then what we will do, that we will just take sum of these equations. How? Instead of IC1, I will write this equation. Instead of IC2, I write this equation. And from this I is taken common. Here I is common and alpha 1 plus alpha 2 is a bracket. While these two are written as a sum, this is equal to I. And as I is common in this equation and here, so what we will do, we will just take this equation on the right hand side. When this equation will go to the right hand side, then it will get minus from I. And when we will take I as a common, then we will get here 1 minus alpha plus 2. And then we will keep I on one side and gather all terms together. So this will give you the total current which is flowing from the anode to cathode. This is actually the saturation current of collector 1 plus saturation current of collector 2 divided by 1 minus total current transfer ratio of both transistors. Now this last equation, which shows the total current which is flowing from the anode to cathode. This equation indicates that current I through the device is small, approximately the combined collector saturation current of two equivalent transistors, as long as the sum of alpha 1 plus alpha 2 is small compared with unity. As the sum of alpha approaches unity, the current I increases rapidly. The current does not increase without limit as this equation implies. However, because the derivation is no longer valid as alpha 1 plus alpha 2 approaches unity. In this way, your junction J2 becomes forward bias. In forward conducting state, both transistors become saturated after switching. The true transistor remains saturation while the device is in forward conducting state, being held in the saturation by the device current. So we have seen that how our SCR move from forward blocking state, forward conducting state, that when this current transfer ratio increases of both the transistor and become comparable to 1 or equal to 1, then this current raises instantaneously, as it is shown here from the forward blocking state, then forward conducting state, instantaneous or current raises. So this is the procedure how we have moved from the blocking state to the conducting state. This is all which I have to discuss today. Of course, I will ask some questions from you girls, which I will assign in your Google class, and you will have half an hour to solve those questions and send me back. Thanks for your attention. Tomorrow we will discuss some another topic. Allah Hafiz.